In today's Vatnik Soup, I'll introduce an American social media personality, Tim Pool. He's best known for being funded by the Kremlin, his right-wing media empire, his connections to several American conspiracy theorists, and for his cool beanie. And for clearly being in denial about being bald. Tim Pool rose to fame during the 2011 Occupy Wall Street protests, which he live-streamed together with a former realtor, Henry Ferry. He was one of the pioneers of doing live streams where he also interacted with the audience and even let them direct him on the ground. Pool's footage was aired on NBC and other mainstream networks, and Time dubbed him as the Eyes of the Movement. In 2011, Pool described himself as an activist 100%, stating that he doesn't consider himself a journalist. A year later, things had changed, and Tim Pool told El País that he's not an activist, but a journalist. In 2018, he said that I don't align with Occupy Wall Street and never did, and later in 2021 called the Occupy movement crooked. After the Occupy movement fizzled, Pool moved on to work at Vice Media. He started at Vice by covering the anti-government protests in Istanbul and was even awarded a Shorty Award in the Best Journalist in Social Media category. Kind of ironic Tim Pool getting a Shorty Award. During 2013 and 2014, Pool went to Ukraine to cover the Euromaidan and the revolution of dignity that finally led to the collapse of the corrupt Yanukovych government. Based on his statements from the time, he seemed to be relatively pro-Ukraine. In 2014, Pool also interviewed Finnish-German conspiracy theorist Kim.com. Kim is best known for his strong opposition of US and NATO and Ukrainian sovereignty, and less known for threatening to sue me for exposing him for this. In 2019, Tim hit the big leagues. He was invited to the Joe Rogan Experience together with Twitter founder Jack Dorsey. They both criticized the banning of right-wing provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos for promoting hate. He was later reinstated by Elon, as is tradition. For his staunch support of platforming of right-wing provocateurs and conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones, Donald Trump invited Pool in 2019 to a White House event. The actual reason for this might have been the incident where Tim Pool supported Kim.com's conspiracy theory that a person named Seth Rich had leaked the emails of the Democratic National Committee in 2016. In reality, these leaks allegedly came from a Russian hacker group called Fancy Bear and were disseminated by Julian Assange's WikiLeaks. Tim Pool was also named a super spreader of fake news over the voter fraud claims during the 2020 U.S. presidential election in a report from the Election Integrity Partnership. Out of the 21 top offenders, 15 were verified Twitter accounts, which are particularly dangerous when it comes to election misinformation, the study said. The repeat spreaders responsible for the most widely spread misinformation included Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and influencers like James O'Keefe, Tim Pool, Elijah Riot, and Sidney Powell. All 21 of the top accounts of misinformation leaned right-wing, the study showed. Politically, Tim has claimed to be a centrist, often criticizing mainstream media as something that's skewed toward liberal and left-leaning audiences and that's actually dying. This puts Tim in a position where he can frame the Democrats as warmongers and at the same time support a convicted felon and sexual abuser like Donald Trump, who, by the way, has been classified as hardcore conservative by On the Issues, an American nonpartisan organization providing information to voters on political candidates in America. In September 2024, the U.S. Department of Justice published an indictment in which they indicted two RT employees for funneling $10 million to a Tennessee-based company, Tenet Media, in order to promote pro-Kremlin viewpoints in the U.S. media. Tenet Media then made lucrative deals with US-based YouTube influencers who were advised to produce polarizing and often anti-Ukraine content on their channels. Allegedly, Tim was paid $400,000 for these videos. In reality, it was actually $400,000 a month for these videos that barely ever scratched over 100,000 views, which is insane money for YouTube videos with views that low. Tim and the other creators, including Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin, claimed that they were not aware of the origins of the funds, but were happy to bash Ukraine and earn millions in return. Out of the bunch, Pool was one of the most hardcore when it came to talking shit about Ukraine, calling Ukraine one of the greatest enemies of our nation.
But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
He also claimed that the allegations against Trump for working with Russia shouldn't be listened to and that the Ukrainians run the US. Together with Elon Musk, Tim has also been one of the biggest promoters of the Civil War in the West narrative. In June 2024, Tim posted on X about a Ukrainian NGO that included his name on a list of accused of impeding aid to the country. Incidentally, Tim was at this point already receiving money from the Kremlin and was happy to cover their narratives via tenant media. After the indictment was published, Tim doubled down on his anti-Ukraine rhetoric, mocking the country's supporters. For example, he stated that the man who tried to assassinate Donald Trump should be investigated for being a Ukrainian agent. Tim's co-host, Josie Glavich, aka the Red-Headed Libertarian, has also jumped on the pro-Kremlin Kremlitarian train, and she'll be one of the speakers at yet another installment of the anti-war event organized by the Libertarian Party. Now here's how I see Tim Pool. I think he genuinely started as an anti-establishment activist, but once he became more popular and made friends with household name conspiracy theorists like Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and Donald Trump, he became just a regular grifter. Sounds pretty accurate to me. In January 2024, Tim, the man of the people Pool, was complaining that the private jets he uses, which used to only be a little bit more than first class, are now becoming too expensive. He then blamed the industry's collapse on diversity, climate change, and the Great Reset. Tim also tried to gain popularity among the cool kids by offering $20,000 in prize money for an event at a local skate park. The organizers refused, after which he bought the whole skate park out of spite for $850,000, blaming the whole thing on the woke left. What a douche. My book, Vatnik Soup, The Ultimate Guide to Russian Disinformation, has been published and you can order it here. I highly recommend it. This guy actually does some really good work. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg with this guy. Maybe I'll do a deep dive of my own at some point, but right now it's getting late and I got stuff to do.